Hello everyone, I'm Steve. Marc's at work late tonight, and this is SmokeySteveAndMarc. Either welcome or welcome back, and happy Thursday. Weekend starts tomorrow. Weekend starts tomorrow. At least mine does. I'm very, very excited. It's been a longer week. I'm in the office tomorrow too, which usually makes the day go pretty quick. So, I hope everyone's well. I hope everyone's safe. Look after yourselves. Look after each other as best you can. I don't know. I have the sniffles at the moment. So, of course, I think it's not allergies. It's worse than COVID. It's some rare disease that I will be patient zero for. It's one of those kind of days. So, we won't talk about that for the whole video, though. What I wanted to talk about was employment. Employment is something that's always been near and dear to my heart. It's always meant more than just a job. And it's something I've had quite a few jobs. I've had quite a bit of experience with because I've had and lost probably more jobs than most people. And this is arguably the first career thing I've had where I like the work. It has a whole bunch of disciplines within it. I feel like there's mobility within it. Movement up, well, that's for another day. But that's kind of how it is right now. But I've started working when I was about 13. And I always had the idea that I want my own money. You know, I didn't get an allowance. My sister did. And my brother didn't have to ask too hard. But I wanted to do things like I was in a bowling league when I was a teenager. And we went on, school trips. We'd go to Dorney Park. Allentown's an hour away from here. So is Dorney. Great Adventure, Six Flags in New Jersey, not far. We'd go on trips like that. But at a private school, you're all coming out of pocket. So those are $50, $60 trips each time. Then just to get the cheese bus to go. And I didn't come from money like that. Yeah, it might not seem like a lot, but it wasn't around. Not for something like that. So I live in this small town, and I'm a chubby, fat 14-year-old. Maybe 13, I don't remember. Whatever the year Hale Bop, the comet, was out. It was then. I think it was the fall. So I passed by this little restaurant on a corner in town where I grew up, and they have dishwasher wanted in the sign in the window. And I thought, I can wash dishes. I mean, I don't do it at home, but how hard could it be to wash dishes? So I went in to the bar and asked if they were looking for someone. And with no experience, they said, yes, come in. The rate was under the table, and it was $3.50 an hour. That's low even for the 90s when I was working. And they needed somebody to come in just a couple nights a week, on a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Saturday, just to do some dishes. And it was very not busy. They did do dinner theater, which was kind of cool, and those nights would be slammed. But otherwise, I just worked a few nights a week for $10 a night. But I was too young to get working papers when you're 15 or 16 to go work at a legitimate place. So doing under the table for this place seemed like low fuss. I could walk there from home. It was not a big deal. I did only work there for about 3 months, though, because the place made the news. Because apparently there were fencing stolen property from the upstairs of the restaurant, the top floors. I didn't know that was going on. I shouldn't have helped them move all those boxes. But lo and behold. So that shuts down, and my parents are like, you probably shouldn't work at a place like that. So we quit over the phone. I didn't work again until I was about 10th grade. No, that's a lie. My father worked for a company. He was part owner of a company, and they had a large lawn on their property and an angle about this steep. And my brother would go in on Saturdays with my father when he would work Saturdays and go in and cut the grass. And my dad's organization would cut him a check. It was $6 an hour to cut the grass. So, and it was only 1 day a week. So when my brother lost interest, couldn't do it, didn't want to, don't remember why, I stepped in and I started doing the Saturdays. Then I started around 15, 16, working. So I was working a part-time job as a dishwasher. Not that one, which closed. I got another one. And this place also, my brother had worked. So he was a busboy, and he helped me get in, and I was in dishwashing. So, which I wasn't bad at. And this is the same restaurant. It's so incestuous. My brother worked there, and then I worked there, and then I had to leave to go to college. And then when Marc moved into town, Marc worked there for 6 or 7 years. So it's all very small towny, everyone knows everybody. It's not ideal. It depends on what you like to live around. But that was the other job that I had. And I was good. The first thing that the boss said the day I was there, and I was, 15, 16, just ready to work. I would leave soiled, covered in marinara sauce at an Italian restaurant. He said, work smart, not hard. And I thought, now I was kind of thin at the time because I was going in between school, chorus practice, eventually play practice, work, and then go to bed. I'd leave the house at 7:30 in the morning and not come home until 9:30. Go to sleep and do it all over again. So I was very active at the end of high school, and I worked at that job until like July of 2000 because I started in college in late August, September of 2000. It was okay. You wash dishes. It was a kid's job. All work is noble work. All work is work if you're doing it. And there was a couple guys there. It was funny because, I was a part-timer. I worked a weekend and then 2 weeknights. Like Monday, Friday, Sunday I would work. Or maybe Monday, Friday, Sunday. That was usually my schedule. And there was guys there who it was their full-time job. And I thought, I don't know how I'd feel about myself if I was washing dishes at 40. I'd like to think I'd be okay with whatever choices I made, but and there's no shame in doing work. Like I said, work brings money in, but I kind of thought to myself, I want to do something different when I get older. This isn't the last job I want to have. Washing dishes is not the last job I ever want to have. I want to try something else. So then I left my small town and I go to university, the one in Scranton, for a year before I transferred to Temple, which is in Philadelphia. So after high school, I spending a year in Scranton. Now I'm dead ass broke. Dead ass broke. Borrowing money from anyone who's gullible enough to give it to me. You're still budgeting in Christmas and birthday money into part of your actual budget, that kind of thing. And most parents discourage their kids from working in the first semester, maybe first year of school. That wasn't an option. I had luxuries and things I liked, which cost money that you couldn't buy under a declining balance. It didn't work. So I did find a job through a friend of a friend at a telemarketing agency in Scranton. I forget what the name was. Here was the audition, interview, whatever it was. Okay, can you read this? And it was like 3 sentences. If I could read it, they'd hire you. You'd go through 2 days of training where you make $140 for that, and then you go live onto the phones, and you start talking to people. And I was selling telephones over the telephone. How the fuck you call somebody and tell them, you know what you need? This thing you're talking on right now, you need another one. And everybody was from the South. It was Bell South. So the names ended in EAUX or something like that. I don't know. So I worked that job for about 3 weeks, maybe 4, until I couldn't stand it. And then I had a big refund on my tuition come through. I only needed about $3,000 to cover my tuition, and I had taken a private loan out with a cosigner, and we had borrowed the full amount, so I got that money back. The difference I got back was like $3,000, and I'm like, screw work, and then I went and wasted all the money. I couldn't even tell you on what. So then the decision is made that I, with no job and no savings, nothing to liquidate, I went to the pawn shop with my tiny TV and some of my heavier metals and tried to pile together some money because I was moving in with one of my girlfriends from the university who lived in suburban Philadelphia. And the plan was I was going to crash with her all summer and then move into some sort of university housing that fall. I can't believe how not seriously I took it then because it was handled like 2 days before school started. Now, if it was like a month out, I'd be a wreck. But, the bravery particular to fools, drunks, babies, kids, all that kind of stuff. So I move in with her. It's 3 months till school starts. Now, they didn't talk to me about rent. It was, a friend's mother. But friend's mother's mother was Graham's house. And it was Grandma, her mother, her, me, and then one of her uncles lived upstairs part-time. So I had to get a job, and not a part-time job. So I went looking for work, and there's all these thousands. It was in suburban Philadelphia. There's 1,000 little shops they'd probably throw me out of as a customer, let alone would they hire me to sell any of their stuff. I mean, there's like 3 Crate and Barrels within a mile radius. It's that kind of place. So I went to Strawbridge's. They have a little shopping center where it's like the department store. Strawbridge's was brought by Macy's, I think, but it was Strawbridge's. The train station was right there, and there's a bunch of other little coffee shops and things like that. So I'm looking for work. I can't find any. The best I was able to do was at Strawbridge's. I went to apply for a retail position, like a cashier, sell stuff. I'll figure something out. And they said, we don't have anything like that full time, but would you like to do maintenance? Housekeeping. I thought, well, I'm not too proud to do much of anything, really, at this point. So I thought, sure, I'll do housekeeping. When I tell you it was the funnest job I ever had, and that if I could make what I'm making now, if not, of course, a little more, doing that work, I would do it in a heartbeat. There was no time invested in drama. There was no useless meetings. There was no Zooms. I would go in, I'd clean the store's front windows, and check what day of the week it was, because it was a 4-story department store, and then the men's store with their clothing was across the street, across the little square, and had 2 floors. So whatever day of the week it was, you pick a day, that floor, you vacuum that day, you do all the windows, you pick up trash at all the registers. Very simple. You say hi, hello with everybody, and God forbid, God love these snobs, but I'll just tell you what it looked like and you can decide. Every other maintenance person was black. Every other retail associate was white. So when I would go in and try to talk to people about, they'd ask, well, what are your plans? What are you doing? Do you like working here? I said, well, I'm going to college in the fall. And they were like, really? They looked surprised, as though there must be something wrong with me for picking up their garbage and still going to college later. I don't know. So I worked there full-time that summer and then part-time for the following year of school. Then I got a job as a student worker on campus. I had workers, what the frick is it called? Work study program, where a certain amount of money is available to me through this grant of the government, but I have to earn it. It's just not just given. So if I can find a job, I can have the money, but I got to make it myself. So I looked on a database of jobs, couldn't really find any. And then the university housing office had an opening. And I went to the wrong office and applied. I went to a different place and I was like, oh, sorry. They're like, well, we're hiring too. I'm like, well, how often? They're like 20 hours. I'm like, I got to eat. And I was going to sublet that summer. So I needed rent for 3 months plus food. And we were subletting downtown. It doesn't. So I meet the boss of that department, the associate director of housing, and he's as gay as a picnic basket. And when I pick up on him that he's kind of, feeling that I'm gay too, I turned into Joan Rivers, like in the, oh, honey, I know, I love Philadelphia. Oh, it's so good here. Thank God a place like this exists for people like me to go, so where I don't feel like I turned on my social justice warrior face. And he was just a nice guy too. I wasn't just trying to, get a job out of him, but he did offer me a job, and it was up to 40 hours a week in the summer, if I wanted to do it. And then during the school year, it'd be malleable. Now I blew through most of my student worker money, but the guy who was my boss was very, very cool and very much an advocate for student workers, and said, we're going to start putting him on payroll and pay him out of there. If his work study money runs out, we are going to subsidize it. And they did. And they did that up until a year and a half after I had graduated college. So I worked as a student worker from then till my graduation. The job duties changed. I started working in off-campus housing, a little bit of real estate-y type stuff, and then conference and event planning. So that's what I did, and then it turned into my full-time job. That was the full-time job, the first big grown-up one, where you have the 401k, and you have a flexible spending account. They even had pet insurance, and they had domestic partner benefits before anybody did, that I had searched for work. Nowhere had anything like that. I was single, but that's not the point. Okay, that's not the point. They should have offered it. So I stayed at that job for about a year and a half until 2007. And then I increasingly got sicker and drunker while I was doing that, and I was trying to hide it, and I did it well for a little while. I was somewhat functional, but when it gets to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed, and I've run out of excuses for why I can't be there, and they've already kind of very nicely just started giving me unpaid days off rather than firing me for after using all my paid time off, So my behavior got so outrageous. This isn't about addiction, but my behavior got so outrageous that it included me coming to work drunk, not in a good state. And I was fired that day because I broke the rules of my employment. I was not screwed over. I was not screwed over. You gotta do bad shit to get fired from a union job. AFL-CIO was my union, I think, or I forget what it was, but I forget what it was. AFSME, me. I don't know what it was, but it was hard to lose a job that was set up like that, and I did. So I move home, and I'm not encouraged to work immediately by my parents. I kind of just hang out, and then I do find a job around the beginning. When did I find a job? Oh God. They all start to run together because at this point, now that I'm drinking, I'm only holding a job for like 3 weeks at a time. So the first job I got back that I thought was going to fix everything, I got a job at Johnson College. Prudential Financial. And I was a operations associate. So I would go in and, like, if your account paid you an extra 1 cent dividend, and you never cashed it, I would redeposit that back into your account. It's a bunch of codes and stuff like that. And I had done data entry before, but this was like more than that. It was a little out of my league. Thank God I had a prescription for Xanax at the time. Of course, I abused it. Now, it was during the course of that job that I went out and got myself a DUI in New York. Okay, so I quit that job from jail. I said I won't be coming in today or ever again. So I had to quit. I quit from there. And then I went home, went through rehab and treatment, so I wasn't working again for a while. And then I landed a job at a local college, trade school. It's called Johnson College, and they do 2-year programs for trades, like they do like radiologic technology and veterinary programs, but they also do like diesel mechanic and some of the other ones. Kids aren't encouraged enough to go into the trades, but that's just my opinion. Not everyone needs a 4-year degree. Most people don't, actually, but unless you're a doctor, I want you to be smart. So I worked there and then was fired before that, and then got the job at Johnson College and got a DUI 3 weeks after I started working there because I got the first paycheck, and boom, I ran. And there was a car accident in the second DUI, and it was my parents' car. So I just shit on them and immediately took out of their hands one of their ways to get around. Now I don't have a way to get to work, but I'm also on a pre-sentence investigation. Well, they're going to be looking at my behavior leading up to sentencing. At this time, I'm just kind of hoping, please let this be small town crap and they just lose the paperwork and I never get in trouble. No, it doesn't work. Doesn't work like that. Didn't for me. So I lose the job at the college. I tried to continue working there. I had to take a day off for my DUI, and then I went back for like 4 months. And the bosses were great, and the work was nice, but I don't know. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. And then I got sicker and sicker, and I wasn't for them. So, I mean, I'd go to work and leave for 10, 20 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, go to the place closest near the school where I could find something with alcohol in it. Whether it was Listerine, booze, Four Locos, anything like that. Four Locos are disgusting, but, like, you gotta understand my desperation at that point. I never try to pass judgment if I can on people who are like IV drug users or levels of disgustingness when it comes to addiction. If I had to shoot vodka in my eyeball to get high, I would have. So there's no superiority coming from my direction. So we go to jail, and I get out of jail, and I have to get to work pretty quickly. I have to get a job. Otherwise, I'm going to have to start volunteering my time picking up trash on the side of the road. So we're in and out of jail for the second DUI, and I'm on probation, and this will go up until 2014. So 2009 to 2014. I start working at a hay band. The people that make polyester pants, they have the little inserts in the Sunday Circular. So I was working there for almost a year. It was about 11 months. I had a setback, started drinking again. So I went to my boss and said, I need to take some time off I'm not doing well. So I'm a month shy of FMLA. So that's not an option. My insurance would only cover detox, and I needed rehabilitation beyond detox. You know, insurance says as soon as you stop shaking and you're not in the danger zone, many of them are content to just throw you out of the hospital or not pay for it anymore. Um, so they didn't pay for my treatment, so I had to quit. I needed treatment more than I needed a job at that point. So I told them I'm very sorry. I called them, my boss at the polyester pants place, and said I'm very, very sorry, but I'm not doing well personally at the moment, and I need to go get some treatment for it. And thank you for letting me work here, and I would love to reach out to you in the future, but right now I can't do what I agreed to do in my contract, so I can't work here. And they were very understanding and very cool with it, and it was like no big deal. I was like, oh, thank God. Okay, this is good. Then I went to like a lot of rehabs for the next few years. I went to a lot of rehabs after that. Back forth, psych ward rehab, psych ward rehab. The only other in the middle of all that job I had was I worked graveyard shift, making lenses for eyeglasses for the military at a place called Gentex, which is, again, hometown. And I couldn't work graveyard. God bless anybody who does do it, even if it is like, some people are built for it. God bless anyone who's not built for it, but still doing it to like feed themselves and their kids. It's brutal. 12 hours, you get a break every 2, which wasn't bad. But your lunch break is at like 4 o'clock in the morning. It was so surreal. And then what was I going to do? Come home and take my nighttime medication? It threw me off too much. It threw me off too much. So graveyard shift wasn't for me. It's not the kind of work it does. But there was no opening 7 to 7. And it was going to be 3 on, 3 off days. So I'd work 3, be off 3, But after about 2 weeks of that job, I couldn't take it. Couldn't take it either. So it goes. So then Mark moves in. I mean, literally, it all happened like work-wise. I was doing as much as I could. I always felt like if I could get a job, no matter how much of a screw-up I was, crazy or drunk or whatever, if I could get a job, it somehow proved that I had it together. I don't know if it proved it to me or I thought it proved it to other people, that I had it together. That I could, despite all my zaniness, still be employable, still deserve an income, still has labor worth selling. I thought, so, I don't know. So I was out of work and on disability for a year and a half. Right when I got out of my last rehab and I got home. Now I had applied for disability, Social Security disability, in a stupor, a depressed stupor. I went online, which is actually how you're supposed to start if you're curious, and put in my information. And then the process started from there. Then it was get a hold of medical records. Then it was this, that. And from the time I applied to the time that I was approved, it was about 7 months. And I got it on my first try with no attorney. So if that tells you how thick my medical record was, there's people with broken backs and x-rays, or blind people, who still don't get approved on the first try. So I was fortunate that I needed the help and it came quick. And I was able to use that money to pay back some debts, because I got a lump sum from the time that I had applied until the time I got it, but they broke it up, so it was a couple $1,000s 2 or 3 times. Paid back some debt, paid back my step-grandmother, because she was paying my student loan bill the whole time that I was sick, so I counted up the payments and then paid her all back for that and said, you don't have to worry about it anymore. I'll take care of it. So that was something to be able to do. But still, it wasn't my money. You know what I mean? I've paid into the system since I was, 15. I've been working since like 14, but I've been paying into the system for years. And afterwards, I've continued to. So I don't feel guilty, exactly, for using those resources when I needed to. I think resources, financial ones even, like WIC or food stamps or, not WIC exactly, cash assistance, anything like that, Social Security, insurance, SSI, those are meant to be there for people who need them. I only needed it for a little while, and then I didn't. So the checks stopped coming because I'm making my own money. I don't want to say that's how it's supposed to work, because there's other people who probably do it even better. If they have like the work program, you can start to get back to work and still get your Social Security coming in up to like 9 months. So you can try and there's room for failure. I mean, even that's a little, that gives room for failure too. That gives room for change and adjustment. So when I get through all my debauchery, and it brings us up to, oh God, 2013, January 2013, I'm again looking for volunteer work because I have just gotten home from rehab again with no job. And I have to volunteer, and because I've been approved for disability, I'm not immediately thinking work. I'm thinking busy, though. So I look for a place to volunteer, and I happened to knock on the door of the place where I ended up working now and asked if they were looking for volunteers. I wasn't looking for money, just something, because I couldn't drive. My license had been suspended forever. I had fines, I had costs. I couldn't get to work driving. I had no license. I had a long psychiatric record. I was on parole, all sorts of stuff going on. And they brought me in the back and we talked, and they talked about some work they're looking at and hiring some new people who can help go do surveys at different facilities, health facilities, drug and alcohol, to get an idea of the kind of care that people are getting. And I said, well, I can do it for free, but I can't do it for pay because I get Social Security. But then when they did all the math, it worked out that I'd be able to do it, but I can only work like a day a month because it would go over my threshold. Well, I did that until I liked the work more than meeting the threshold. And that's at the point where they actually offered me up to like 25, 30 hours a week. So I'm working at polyester pants for a while. After that, I came back to polyester pants out of my last trip to rehab and said, hey, I'm doing better now. Do you have anything available? And they said yes. They gave me 2 or 3 days a week to work. It was wonderful. And then I was doing 2 or 3 days at my current job where I was just doing, part-time. It was like 15 hours. And I found for me that having the 2 part-time jobs initially was a good option, especially since I had just gotten back into working after being batshit crazy for a few years. Because then if I needed to quit one, I could and keep the other. If I was doing one 40-hour-a-week job and I couldn't do it, that's it. Then it's nothing. So for the time, I carried the 2 part-time jobs. And then in July 2014, I signed up full-time. They offered me a position, I took it. And I've been at the same place ever since. This is the closest thing to a career, I would say, that I have. As not, the other ones felt like jobs. The one in higher education could have been a career. I did like working with college students. The pay was good, and of course I loved living in Philadelphia. But I gotta be honest, when you start looking at prices, I would need to have twice my income to rent the shittiest place in my old neighborhood in Philly from 15 years ago. I looked at my old apartment. They've made no renovations, and it's $1,000 a month. It was $450 when I was renting then. Things are a little bit different than they used to be. My dream salary used to be $35,000. I figured that's enough. I'm not with anybody. I don't want to have kids. I don't care if I own property because there's no one to leave it to. So I might as well just rent and be merry. And I took it too far and fucked it up for myself. So hopefully, going forward, I won't have too many more foibles. When I did have setbacks at my current employer, because it's an agency that works with folks who have mental health concerns, they understand staff's concerns also. And I was hired as a peer specialist, which this place paid for the training for. Peer specialist being someone who has lived experience with mental health concerns, but is certified through the Pennsylvania Certification Board to provide that service as a billable service reimbursed through Medicaid to other individuals. So that's the kind of work that they trained me to do. I don't do one-on-ones, really. I tend to do group work, training, presentations, education, and I'll come on here every so often and clench my throat because it's all so nerve-wracking I think I'm going to die. But this is far better a reality than the one where I was not working and drinking and trying to pretend for another day everything's okay. We'll just put life off another day. I lost so many years to doing that. Please don't. If you're in a position where you're in a holding pattern, and you have been since 2018, think about some movement. I wasted a lot of time just sitting still waiting for things to happen, and that didn't work that way. So recovery and employment are tied together closely for me. It makes me feel proud of myself to work, which is dangerous because I have to toe the line of that of saying if I'm unable to work, that doesn't mean I am a bad person or a lazy person. It's not like that. It means unable to, if that's the case. And again, those resources are there, and I've paid into them, and I'll take out later. And trust me, I've been working. I'm almost 40. I've got many more years working. Many more years working, I'm sure. So that's all I had to say, pretty much. My employment history and some of the hiccups along the way. Maybe you've had some, maybe you haven't. Maybe you've had the dream job. Maybe you've had the worst job ever. I would say the dishwashing job where they got caught for fencing stolen property and I had to quit over the phone for $3.50 an hour. That wasn't great, but it was my first job. I had no idea. So we'll see. I'm happily employed at the moment. I'm working from home at the moment, except for a couple days a week, which is really nice. And I get to still be in touch with like my comfort zone, my places, the cat's here all day, and I can have that for a while. And I can also go into the office and handle my shit there too. So I thought I was getting a little agoraphobic from being home so much, but I'm doing okay in front of crowds. I'm doing okay talking to people, mask or no mask too. So wish me continued luck on that. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Please do subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you get alerts when we have new videos and when we go live. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram. Our email and contact info is listed below as well. Thank you again, and we will catch up with you soon. Very, very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.